my good buddy Mitch Jackson's profile. I'll be introducing him briefly, and he will also do a further intro and Nima's before we get rocking and rolling today, because we've got some really exciting things that we're going to be discussing. So in the meantime, I'd also like to highlight Web3 Insanity, which you can see there in the audience. Have a look at that profile. There's quite an few interesting projects going on over there if you're curious about all things Web3. Just want to say hey to Jarrett. Appreciate you jumping in, and I appreciate you. We just exchanged some messages. Shirley, always good to see you. Caleb, always good to see you. You helped so much behind the scenes. Jay, lovely to see you. Charlotte, appreciate you popping in, and Karen and Prab, everyone here, really appreciate all of you taking the time to be with us. So I want to be respectful of everybody's time. So let's jump into it, folks. So welcome to today's LinkedIn Live audio. I'm super excited because we're going to be talking about all things Web3 and the law. And of course, we have our resident panel here today, including my dear friend Mitch Jackson and our guest speaker for you today, which hopefully you'll all get some key takeaways. So give me a thumbs up emoji if you're excited to learn more about the world of Web3 today. Let's get this an interactive session, folks. Give us some thumbs up. Fabulous. Okay, so let's get into it. Do you know what most people are still missing when it comes to all things Web3? And how is Web3 good for the legal community? And why is Web3 still going to win moving forward despite the big losses we have seen this year thus far? So hopefully, folks, that has piqued your interest ahead of today's discussion. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Rob Hanna. I help lawyers with their careers and to land their dream jobs. I'm also the host of the world-leading Legally Speaking podcast. We're a top 1.5% globally ranked show. We were the first ever legal podcast to be sponsored by a legal tech unicorn, Clio, and to launch our very own legal community creator coin. And I'm a speaker, advisor, investor in recruitment and legal tech startups. And I'm also a LinkedIn top 100 rising star and a product tester for LinkedIn and the host of this product, LinkedIn Audio's Town Hall. And for those of you who are interested in the latest developments of this product, I'm hosting a town hall for LinkedIn on the 28th of August. So just DM me the word LinkedIn if you want more information. I've also been featured in numerous publications, including The Modern Lawyer, CIO Times, and many others. And we have a very exciting club going over on Discord called the Legally Speaking Club. So that's fast growing. And if you want to know more, send me the word Discord and I'll tell you a little bit more about what we've got getting up over there. And aside from all that jazz, I'm a proud first-time father and parent to my miniature dachshund dog, Otto, both from time to time who feature on my LinkedIn posts, because we know, folks, our communities are changing. We want to show our personal and human side on LinkedIn as it's changing for the better. That said, those of you who know me well, I love to collaborate with the right and like-minded people today. And as I've mentioned, we have a special guest for you, along with my dear friend Mitch. But before I jump further, I just want to let you know, firstly, please note this room is being recorded and all the content shared is purely for educational purposes only. No legal advice whatsoever is being given. And go a step forward, please also all ensure that you do your own due diligence and research before taking any actions following anything that you hear in public spaces, folks. I really want to encourage you to ensure that you do your own due diligence, and this space is purely for an educational conversation, nothing more. And in the meantime, please do hit the invite button, invite some of your friends, connections into the room so we can all learn and mastermind together. Feel free to also take a screenshot. LinkedIn audio is still pretty new. I see some new faces in the audience. So tell your communities that you're getting involved in LinkedIn audio events. Tag myself. Feel free to tag Mitch, Nima. Let people know some of your key takeaways from today. So I'd love to pass the mic over to my dear friend, Mitch Jackson. And for those of you who don't know Mitch, where have you been hiding, firstly? Mitch is one of the world's best legal community builders out there. He's a top entrepreneur, top trial lawyer, and leading the way, folks, when it comes to all things Web3 and the metaverse. He wrote the Metaverse Handbook, and he had a certain Gary Vee, along with many other household names you will see on the internet, in his Metaverse Penthouse Suite. Yes, I did say Metaverse Penthouse Suites. That's how much Mitch is really diving into the world of Web3. I'm forever sort of astounded with what he's achieving and what he's doing to help me and you folks. So with that, Mitch, would love for you to do a further intro, and then we're going to get into introducing Nima, and then we're going to get into today's topic.
Rob, you are so on fire. It's so good to be here. Nima, I'm glad you're joining us today. And I don't have anything to add other than what you've already said, Rob. Thank you for the kind introduction. I would like to point out two things. You mentioned you're a proud father. I am too. You mentioned the name Gary Vaynerchuk, VaynerMedia. I got the green light, Rob, to officially be able to announce that my son, Garrett Jackson, who just graduated from the Marshall School of Business at the University of Southern California, just accepted a position at VaynerMedia in their LA office. So it's going to be a fun ride for him, and I can't wait to see all the fun things and exciting things that he does over the next 20 years. Also, I'd like to point out this is so new. I mean, I'm learning something new every single day in the Web3 space, and that's why these shows are so much fun. Is I can promise everyone, because I know I will, we'll all learn something new, between now and when this show wraps up. So, Rob, it's good to be here. Nima, looking forward to having a conversation with you, and everyone that's joined us. It's good to see you. Connect with my son Garrett Jackson on LinkedIn. Thanks, Rob.
Oh, Mitch, that has made my Monday. I'm going to reach out to Garrett because I'm a big fan of Garrett. I even gave him a recommendation on LinkedIn. He is the future, folks. These are the sort of people we need to be orbiting around. I am so happy for him. So congratulations. I'll also personally congratulate him later. But that's made my day. Can we get a little heart emoji for Mitch's son, Garrett Jackson? He's just landed an awesome job and going to have a phenomenal career ahead of him. And I also just want to say hi to Matt, who's in the audience. He's been doing some really cool events with Francesca over on Entra, so make sure you check out his profile. Jarrett, good to see you as well. Shireen, it's been a minute. Lovely to see you. Eileen, appreciate you. Ashkan, Eamon, everyone, Nadine, really appreciate you all taking the time to be here. So I would just like to briefly introduce our guest today. As I've mentioned, we have the wonderful Nima next to us. Nima is a high technology and space lawyer, assisting technology clients globally with the most cutting edge Internet of Things and data science projects. He's also a business lawyer with over 10 years of regulatory experience in the government and private backing sectors. And he's also the head of private technology practice with a focus on Web3, blockchain, NFT, AI, robotics, and lots more. And his law firm is called Lawonomics. So he's been involved in everything, folks, from licensing the technologies to larger companies, to advising large companies and non-profits organizations, as well as boards on data use, data privacy, including cross-border M&A transactions, AI use cases, NFT, overall blockchain use cases. So I'm hoping we're all going to hear and learn a lot today. And he's also currently providing general counsel to several organizations and how to engage in formal discussions when it comes to DAOs. If you don't know what a DAO is, this is an inclusive space. Come up onto the stage and ask. We want you to all learn and get used to the Web3 terminology. So give me a heart emoji for our panel today. And as I say, if you want to raise your hand at any stage and come up onto the stage and ask a question, feel free to do so. There is no such thing as a silly space or silly question. As Mitch said, we're all still learning. Despite us running these regularly every Monday, there's always a little nugget of wisdom or two or three or four that I pick up. So let's get into it. Nima, firstly, welcome to, I believe, your first LinkedIn Live audio with us. Pleasure to have you.
Hey Robert, hey Mitch. It's been a long time, but you guys are the most familiar people I know on social media. So I feel like it was just left yesterday. We were picking off on popular Web3 topics. So I'm glad to be with you guys today.
Yeah, and let's dive straight into it then. Let's get into some content, because I understand most people in the sort of Web3 or curious about Web3 ask you how can they accept the first family or friend paycheck and start their business idea. But I guess let's speak more broadly than that. What are your top 3 tips to all things Web3 clients, no matter what your industry?
Well, I like the way you just you pinned the needle on the head right there. That's the main question I get from most clients. The first question that leads to many other questions. It's pretty much I guess you would call the threshold issue of how do we start this complicated thing called a Web3 project, right? So, firstly, I want to emphasize, uh, out of if I can give you like 3 main tips, it would be this. It would be number one, versioning. You want to definitely version the product or the service or the products and services that you're offering. So when I say this, it's very important for a few reasons. One, you want to basically frame, what is the transaction and what is the data involved in that transaction. In order to understand your data input and your data throughput, you can understand your stakeholders and what they're going to be contributing, and you can have a better understanding of then your regulatory requirements. Regulations are going to get pretty detailed, so it could be as general as, you can buy and sell on this exchange this type of crypto, and it could be as complicated as, I'm building this type of product and it requires 2,000 parts to it, and each part is from a different country that has different data use, data transfer laws, and therefore different export laws. So you definitely don't want to export something that you didn't mean to.
I love that. And you mentioned there was sort of three main points. You mentioned versioning. I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about the maybe finding an investor with more than the money. I know you want to talk a bit about that.
Yeah. So the other 2 points go to the money. So when you find an investor, you want to find an investor that has more than money. So why do I say this? It's because Web3 is complicated, and so you're building a software or a product or a service that's, and it's involving multiple steps and stages. So you want to promise an end goal to your investor, but you also want to be realistic with the expectations of the time frame for all of those things that you promised. And so definitely you want to have an investor that's going to contribute more than money. It's probably going to contribute to your vision, to your network, to something else other than just handing over a paycheck. And so the third most common thing that's also money based is the third tip is, if you're going to accept money from family and friends, make sure to do so uh, in a way that you're representing the right thing from day one. You can contract for anything, but if your family and friends don't know that they're paying for your legal fees, then that can be something that would rub them the wrong way later down the line if they found out. And so you definitely want to make a contract that is fair, that is something that another lawyer, an experienced lawyer, can review and say, hey, the terms of this is equal. You guys are giving up both something of equal or greater than equal value to each other, and then so you don't fall into issues later down the line.
I love that, because you're talking very openly about sort of contracts, communication, and yeah, I just think it's really important to highlight them. And I'm gonna let Mitch jump in with a couple of questions. I just want to say a quick hello to my good friend Jennifer Harris. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a little while, so I appreciate you being with us. And I also wanted to say a little hi to everyone else in the audience. We appreciate you taking the time. Over to you, Mitch.
So many friends, both old and new, in the Web3 community joining us each week. It's so much fun. Nima, Rob mentioned at the beginning of the top of the hour about things taking a turn when it comes basically to cryptocurrency, when it comes to fluctuating values of digital assets and things like that. You mentioned also the term investing and looking at Web3 through that particular lens. Let me remind everyone, no legal advice is being given today, no financial advice, no tax advice. We're simply having a conversation. But Nima, one of the things that really fascinates me about Web3 has nothing to do with the above. In other words, I'm really interested in the technology, in unlockable NFTs, in the blockchain and smart contracts, making it easier, faster, and more efficient to do business. Not necessarily investing in a piece of NFT art, but really doubling down on the technology. For me, it's expanding Web3 technology into the metaverse to create new conversations, new ways to engage with our clients, new ways to represent clients on the other side of the world in an environment where we feel like we're sitting right next to each other in a virtual conference room type of venue. Can you talk to us a little bit about the non-investment, non-financial side of Web3? Is there anything there that has you excited with respect to the technology as opposed to the finances?
Well, yeah, there's more that excites me on the technology than on the financial market standpoint, Mitch. So to answer it very briefly, yes, I think that there's a lot of exciting new ways that we can use blockchain technology to revolutionize cross-border, culture-driven conversations. And one of the most exciting things, like, I'll just give you a tidbit of what I've come across recently. Um, Someone that ran for public office in Utah basically created a blockchain startup company platform, whatever you want to call it, It's a platform that lets you administer marriages, and they did so during pre-COVID. So basically, right when COVID happened, they started this platform, and they started allowing. Because I don't know if you noticed, but there was like a majority of states in America, they weren't opening their courthouses for public marriage ceremonies, and so people couldn't get their marriage licenses. That was a big thing. And so people were leaning towards the internet, and then they found platforms, basically blockchain platforms, that allow you to carry out a marriage certificate if it's being carried out by an individual of public office. And guess what? Someone in public office in Utah did so, created the first ever internationally driven marriage ceremony licensure process. And so they provided same-sex marriages in other parts of the world where it was illegal to carry such, and it would allow for those individuals to carry out certain type of other administrative processes such as amnesty, refugee applications, the like. And so, Mitch, it's quite an exciting time for the technology to start showing its face, showing its use cases, showing the amazing stories behind blockchain and what it's done for people.
Just listening to your response, I mean, as a lawyer, I'm more excited today than I've ever been in my 36-year long adventure of a career in what we can do to help the consumer as lawyers. In your response, Nima, you just mentioned things that jump out at me: international legal issues, conflict of law issues. This weekend, I was in one of my metaverse spaces and met a doctor from Dubai who apparently is world renowned for robotic surgeries all over the world. We would not have met had we not been in the metaverse together. But in speaking with him and what he wants to do in the United States, it raised in my mind all types of legal issues. And so just piggybacking real quick, Rob, on what Nima just said, Nima, can you talk to someone who for the first time is thinking about maybe doing some of the things you just suggested that might have a global impact, a global clientele? What are some legal things they might want to pay attention to, whether it's doing business as an entity, whether it's working with lawyers licensed in other countries or other regions? Big picture, 30,000 foot level, what are some of the big issues that people need to be aware of if they want to leverage this technology to do some of the things that you just mentioned?
I'm happy you asked that question from me. So I'll give it to you from, instead of the 30,000 foot level, the 250,000 plus foot level. So basically, everything that's going to circulate around the Web3 economy, all these exciting applications, all these high data input to high data throughput applications need to be hosted on something, an infrastructure, which is going to be the new internet, which is why this buzzword called Web3 has been thrown around left, right, up, and center. And basically, we need to build out the new infrastructure from the ground up. And we've built it from the ground pretty well so far. So we've built an existing internet structure through the oceans and through other hardwire mechanisms. And telecommunications companies have been doing a good job providing the data input and data throughput needs of our applications historically till today. But here's the catch. A lot of these good applications are going to require the data input and data throughput services that would sustain them effectively. So there needs to be thousands of metaverses at the same time. So how do you support that? You create the right internet. Hence comes the space industry. So satellites, constellations, vessels, other type of structures in space that maintain these operations will ultimately provide us a much stronger internet that will support the Web3 economy of tomorrow, the lucrative economy that's possible through Web3. The exchange of scalable commerce solutions will be as fluid as an email was 20 years ago, or that Bluetooth is today as a network technology. And so I think that blockchain is at its apex of maturity in terms of people understanding, the top experts in the world understanding its use cases for the next few hundred or few thousand years. But there's a lot of catching up to do. There's a lot of catching up to do. And so I volunteer my time a lot of times to education tech startups. And I try to help those startups leverage the information that's necessary to teach the other 99 point whatever percent of people what is Web3 and how is it going to revolutionize their data input and data throughput needs and the way they live their life in general, how fast they can live and how effectively.
Oh, this is what excites me, folks. And just give me a thumbs up in the audience if you're getting super excited and learning something new today when it comes to these fast moving technologies and just some of the use cases. Just going back to the marriage certificate thing, that's phenomenal. And I want to touch on in a moment your career, Nima, briefly, but I also just want to say hi to my good buddy John Lindsay. Appreciate you stopping in. Also, Mark, thank you so much. Claire, appreciate you hopping by. Chris, he's very active in our Legally Speaking Club Discord. Marco, who's also won some recent awards when it comes to all things Web3 at some of the metaverse events that we've been hanging out recently. So definitely, folks, network. If it's your first time in this event, don't just listen to the speakers, also actively network. Check out people's profiles. There might be people you can do business with. There might be your next mentor, your next investor, your next whoever. So please be proactive and connect and network with one another in the room. So sticking with space law, if I may, Nima, briefly, just because a lot of people know I recruit lawyers. I've never ventured into the sort of space legal recruiting space, so I'm not an expert, it has to be said. But how does one get into that space? Give us sort of 60 seconds or less on your journey to becoming a space lawyer, and why are you so sort of all in on that space right now?
Right. So the reason I'm all in on this space is it's not a new territory. It's not a new area of law, but there's been people in the space industry and in space law particularly for the past, however many decades you want to consider it. But the difference is this: in the historically speaking, the space industry was a highly regulated industry that was only accessible to government entities or highly regulated private entities that were basically an arm of the government. So there was fully unfettered access to the data of those companies and their operations as a whole. And so that's one of the reasons why the space industry was stagnant or was unable to mature at the rate of the technology progression for the past few decades. But here's the good news. Over the past decade, some notable billionaires and philanthropists and investors around the world have, come together and came to consider the existential crises that face humanity. All of the existential crises that can be solved with the help of the right internet, hence Web3, right? People helping people through privatized internet systems, having the control over those systems and the data input and data throughput, and also the privacy of those systems and the information security of those systems so that they can run effectively without causing catastrophic loss. So with that being said, the US government has been a pioneer in the space industry since its inception, but the private markets were not accessible to the space industry. Therefore, startups did not emerge in the space industry until very recently. And so thanks to the efforts of certain, companies over the past 2 decades, there's the opportunity now for private space travel and private space exploration. So there can be startups that create private space travel companies and space exploration and or space mining companies. And so now, as an international community, we've come to a consensus that we can start mining for materials in space and that we can start benefiting the world by creating the right internet infrastructure in a peaceful context. And so, a lot of exciting companies are emerging, in Texas, in Nevada, in New Mexico, in Phoenix, of all places. And so I am a lawyer I'm general counsel to a lot of space companies. I've been an advisor to the National Space Society for the past 2 years on research-based projects that would benefit NFTs. So, basically, the whole breadth of it is let's improve the internet and let's send as many people we can into the cislunar economy over the next 10 years to solve a lot of the major issues that we need solved that we never could solve before.
Ooh, that sounds exciting, and just the speed of the way things are going right now. It's yeah, I mean, you have to take a breath at times and just appreciate folks. You know, even with social audio in these spaces, you can look at how big, you know, LinkedIn. You know, they were behind the curve with audio. I think we're aware of that. It took Clubhouse and these other startups to really get their act together to actually get involved, and then moving into the Web3 and everything Nima's mentioned and Mitch has mentioned and NFTs. And I'm constantly thinking every day, how can I incorporate NFTs into my business? How can I utilize my legal coin to do good for my community, to promote my products and services in an ethical, sustainable way that's good for my community and good for business? So make sure that, folks, you don't just listen to them, but take some action, do some due diligence, do some follow-up conversations, and try and incorporate some of this into your businesses. And definitely check out Mitch's profile. He's got active Discord. He's also got his own organization called Maneuver, which is with his son Garrett, which is a super cool Web3 consultancy. So he'll be able to help you with all of your needs there. But let's go back to sort of dubbing it down. You know, let's keep this as a very light-hearted conversation, and maybe there's lawyers in the room that just really need to hear things in simple terms, Nima. So let's take, you know, your average lawyer. They want a basic example of Web3 to a standard law firm here and now. So, you know, is it about secure documents? Is it about processes or neutral spaces for negotiations? What's it like now, thinking when it's related to Web3?
It's a great question. So, you know, it's the quick answer is all of the above, Robert. And there was in legal operations, there was a few companies that created CRMs, which are customer management solutions, and these are essentially address books, billing solutions, and note-taking solutions, as well as a cloud-based hard drive solution, all in one. And so this allowed for extreme efficiency for solo practitioners to take on much more cases and much more complicated cases than ever before. And so that's the first step, I think, that lawyers have taken in the right direction by utilizing technology towards their practices. And the next step I think that's important is for, on a high level, on a government investment level, on a private investment level, on a VC-based level, for legal operations to take a new step towards improving efficiencies and connectivity between both lawyers within themselves and between clients and other lawyers. So, you know, I built an application called the Your Trial Lawyer app, which is an AI chatbot solution that links to any CRM in the world. And we just partnered with Clio. So we're going to be launching in the coming months our API on the Clio App Store. And so we're looking to talk to chief information officers of the most recognized law firms in America and abroad about piloting our different type of AI solutions, both within their organization to improve their communication and external to their organization in order to drive new business without risking their existing reputations.
Nima, what will your app do? Partnering with Clio, which is who we use, and you know, I've spoken at a couple of Clio conventions. Love the platform. What exactly will your app be doing when it's linked with Clio? As a trial lawyer, I'm curious.
Sure, certainly. So the goal of the Your Trial Lawyer app is an IoT-based project. So we're basically trying to build kiosks that are quick solutions for someone to navigate different practice areas, to tap into one practice area of many, and basically speak to, first of all, write down the first inquiries that they have, get an automated response, and then every inquiry that they make is basically ranked based on sentiment. So the sentiment AI is going to be driving further conversation until we get to a legally answerable question. Okay, and so that's basically the heart of our AI that we're building.
Gotcha. No, that sounds interesting. Definitely keep me in the loop on that. I'd like to, you know, be an early user or tester. It'd be my pleasure. You know, real quick, Rob, you asked Nima, you know, practical real world Web3 solutions for, you know, whether it's a lawyer, whether it's any type of business owner, professional entrepreneur. You know, what I see happening, everyone, is maybe even using Clio. When a new client comes in and they're added into the Clio database, a certain series of NFTs are automatically associated with that new client, whether it's an individual or a company. As the case progresses through the legal system, whether it's filing a lawsuit or responding discovery, we'll be able to right mouse click or tap, and using NFT unlockable technology, filter out or send out different tasks to members of the firm around the country or around the world to start complementing the handling of that litigation matter, whether it's preparing a pleading or responding to a specific discovery question, whether or not it's scheduling court hearings, arbitrations, mediations, or coordinating preparation for jury trials. I see the smart contracts and blockchain helping facilitate all of this almost in an instant, things that have taken days and weeks for us to do and to do the right way because we don't want to make any mistakes. I see it happening, like that down the road. And I just think it's an exciting time for lawyers to embrace this technology and learn about it now, figure out what works for you and your team, and improve upon it by adding your personality, your firm's branding or blend to what these contracts can do, what this technology is going to be capable of, and then implementing it. Not only will you be providing a more exemplary client experience, but you'll also be building a brand. You'll be doing something that other lawyers, other doctors, other CPAs aren't doing for their clients. And Nima, when you look at, because you've had your finger on the pulse of, of everything that we've been talking about, how fast do you think we'll get to the point where it'll be unusual for a business not to be incorporating Web3 technology into their everyday practices? Right now, it's the exception to the rule. When will it become the rule looking down the timeline?
That's a very appropriate question, Mitch. Thank you for the compliment, by the way, and thank you for always taking leadership in the industry as you have since the beginning of this crazy journey we call Web3. I just want to give some love to Mitch right there and to Rob also, both spearheading the Web3 initiative and fearless leaders. So what I want to say is, that we're at a point right now, we're at the apex of understanding. So it's almost going to be risky to practice law in the next 5 years if you don't understand what NFTs are and what AI is. Because NFTs are the building blocks of data and database systems and relational databases and know your customer and compliance and all of the above. And then, the AI is what drives the information forward faster. Okay, so the artificial intelligence is what pushes the information to a destination, to a result, to an insight, to a realization. So if we're going to start practicing law effectively, we have to understand what is called the malpractice of law. And so the malpractice of law in about a few years' time is going to be a lawyer that didn't understand the most elementary of AI systems. And so I highly implore, take your first step today. Every step that you take today is a step less that you have to take tomorrow in understanding what is going to be the future. So thank you, Mitch. Thank you, Robert. And hello, Marco.
Well, thank you, everybody. And I do want to welcome Marco to the stage, and also wanted to say, folks, obviously not in endorsing in any way, but I would definitely check out Clio. We've had a wonderful experience as the sponsors of our Legally Speaking podcast. Nima's obviously got some super exciting things going in terms of an integration, and you definitely want to check out Mitch, who did a collaboration with Clio on how to stand out on Twitter and LinkedIn. So that's a great piece of content that you can check out on Mitch's socials. That's definitely worth a listen, folks. And with that, also just want to briefly shout out Caleb Bowl in the audience, who very kindly made today happen, is doing some incredible things. I'm delighted to be partnering with him on Web3 Insanity. We've got some really cool things going on there where we are trying to educate and make Web3 simple. So with that, Marco, would love to come to you, buddy. Please take 30 seconds to introduce yourself, because you're doing some super entrepreneurial things, and then fire away with your question for Nima.
Thank you very much, Robert. This is Marco here. I hope you can hear from me. Hi, guys. Well, quickly, I don't want to bother you with myself, but I'm Marco, and I'm based in Bristol. I've recently launched my Web3 business. It's called MM3 Legal. I can share some information later on the chat, or you just visit my LinkedIn profile. I just go straight to the question, both for Mitch and Nima, please. In terms of trust, all right. So moving quickly from Web 1 to Web 2 and now to Web 3, trust has always been a huge factor, right, for the success of the entire environment and services. So if we think about Web 1, at least myself, the perfect success back then was eBay. And then Web 2, well, social media, so, well, Facebook and others. So I remember personally in Web 1, oh, don't buy online, it's a scam, they're gonna take your money and leave. Not exactly, you don't know where, but they're gonna leave. Then social media, Facebook, oh, they're gonna steal your data. Well, it's still actually true, but oh, it's gonna be a mess. There's no service. Now, my question to you guys, based on your experiences, in a practical sense, for trust, what do you think? How do you think we can boost trust for users and to be sure that Web3 can be, we can demystify what's wrong with the idea of Web3? Thank you.
Why don't we go Nima then Mitch? Yeah, go for it, Nima.
Sure, I'll go first. Demystify Web3. I think it just comes down to what did you do before Web3 that made you happy, right? What did you do before Web3 that you thought you knew better than most other people? Web3 is going to allow you to amplify that, and it's going to allow you to reach audiences that you were never able to reach before for geographic restrictions. We're just at the beginning of launching location-based servicing, because we're just at the beginning of mapping out the new strategies we need for telecommunications projects to reach internet to populations that never had it before. So for the first time ever, we're just trying to build out the first level playing field, and that's what Web3 means. So anything beyond that, it's going to be your interpretation of the new framework and how to derive new insight and new opportunity from the new framework.
Yeah, 100%. Marco, I think you hit the issue in my mind, what I've been watching for the last year and a half, 2 years develop. This is what we need to be talking about and focusing on. I think we all need to do business like our grandmother and grandfathers did, okay, back in the day, when you could walk down the street and go to the market and you would trust the merchant to provide you with a fresh tomato or, a bottle of milk that wasn't spoiled. And what reputation mattered, what happened in the community mattered. And we would make our personal and business decisions based upon other people's reputations, based upon trust and rapport. And fast forward to Web3, I think that's more important than it's ever been before. And I know everybody here would agree with me on that. And the challenge is that when you start combining some of the Web3 concepts, like, decentralization, like DAOs rolling out, expecting people to invest in different business projects where we don't know who all the players are, and we're not really sure what the quality of the DAO voting base is that's going to lead that DAO into a successful decision-making process. And so it's an interesting time where I think if we take a couple of steps back, take a deep breath, do our due diligence in all of the business decisions we make, whether it's investing, whether it's who do we do business with. I think that if we have people that know how to do due diligence, instead of just a 15-minute Google search is the right and wrong way to do your due diligence. Most of the lawyers, we have databases and investigators that can do this for us. You'd be surprised what you can find out about somebody or something or a project. And I think that if we're all helping each other as a community, we're looking over each other's shoulders to keep each other safe, we're all bringing that value that we each have. We're each really good at something, right? Rob does a lot of things that I'm terrible at. Nima does a lot of things I wouldn't have, a clue as to where to start. Francesca just took the stage, just love what she's doing. I have no business playing in a lot of those sandboxes, but the sandboxes I do play in, I'm really good at. And so when I see something happening, when I see a question being asked in our Web3 communities, if it's in my sandbox, I want to add value. I want to try to help. And I think by doing that full circle, and I'm going to wrap this up real quick because I think it's super important right now in Web3, is if we try to do the right things, if we're always thinking about others, if we're adding value, the tools don't matter as much as the relationships. These tools are going to come and go. but relationships can last a lifetime. And so, Marco, I'm glad you brought that up, because I think that's the foundation all of us need to build upon, you know, in Web3 moving forward. And speaking of, you know, amazing people, Francesca, it's so good to see you. It's been too long. How you doing, kiddo?
Hi guys, it's so good to see you. Yeah, the summer months are always a little hectic, but everything is really good. We somehow managed to fight off COVID after my brother's wedding, which I know we were talking about before last week. My brother had his wedding and I helped them, and so it was a lot, and I'm happy to be back more consistently here. Nima, I am so excited to see you, my friend. Nima is a really active on Instagram, and I continue to follow you on there, and I love all of the content you're putting out. And this room is amazing. I love everything that you guys just said, particularly about expansion. And I have yet to really hear that. So I just wanted to highlight that point, that people are not really sure how Web3 is relevant. It's just another distribution channel, another way to build your community. So that was an amazing comment. And I'm an intellectual property attorney, specialize in all things trademarks, copyrights, and contracts, and happy to answer any questions you guys have. Good to see you all.
Oh, it's awesome to see you, Francesca. And I just want to sort of say, Mitch, you never add value. You always add immense value. So I just want to give you your flowers, my friends. And folks, Francesca is no ordinary trademark and copyright attorney. She is one of the world's best. She also has very active social media handles herself. So I'd strongly encourage you to check out at Decentral Lawyer, because that's where she's providing advice on all aspects of trademark brand protection related to up-to-date Web3 and NFTs. And she also very kindly, I believe, offers a 15-minute free initial conversation, which I would strongly encourage to take up, folks, because Francesca is without a doubt, when it comes to all things IP, someone you need to know if you're really going to dive into the world of Web3, and someone Mitch and I and Caleb just love collaborating with. And yeah, happy, so excited, love watching the photos, looking at the photos of your brother's wedding. I'm glad you also stepped in and made it happen, because I know he was perhaps not as prepared as you thought he once was. Right, folks, let's get back into it. And I want to talk about DAOs, because I know, Nima, it's something you do a bit around, or quite a bit around, and I want to know in the audience, give us a thumbs up if you know what a DAO is, and don't worry if you don't, because I didn't a few weeks back myself. So give us a thumbs up if you do know what a DAO is. Okay, great. So let's jump to Nima. Firstly, can you give a very simplified explanation of what a DAO is, and maybe some things people might want to consider if they're going to go down that route, high level?
Sure. High level, DAO is a decentralized autonomous organization. It is it's alluding to a corporation structure that has autonomy within it. So a typical business corporation structure, there's an article of incorporation and a bylaws. The article of incorporation outlines the state that it's incorporated, generally some other information about, who are the founders and percentages and contributions, and then the bylaw says what decisions can they make, why. So instead of just having a bylaws that states these founders or these these original advisors to the company are going to be entitled to these decision making powers at some point in the future, no, then we have some other stuff besides that. So we have that, but then we have some language about smart contracts making certain decisions, which Mitch pointed out to. We have some information about the platform and any type of electronic data interchange that occurs. Electronic data interchange is a specific process, a set of processes that alludes to how information is exchanged between stakeholders external to the corporation. Okay, so this is important because there's more corporations than one typically involved in a Web3 project, and we need to understand who owns what company and why, and where are they located, and are they going to be considered a foreign national for export purposes, and at what point will they be considered such a national, and when would that be considered such an export? And so essentially you need to start breaking down every element of data down to an NFT and considering whether that NFT or whether that other elemental data is going to be considered an export. Okay, and if it's an export, then you have to consider a lot more things.
Sorry, I couldn't get off mute there. No, thank you for sharing that. Mitch, did you want to jump in? Then we'll jump to Caleb.
Yeah, just real quick. I mean, it's such a fascinating topic. So Nima, when you have clients come to you and they tell you they want to set up a DAO to do X, Y, Z, whatever it might be, what type of conversation do you have with them, balancing whether or not DAOs have been tested in a court of law, whether or not there are statutes supporting DAOs, like we might see with corporations and limited liability companies? It's a new animal that we're not sure how it's going to hold up in court. Just what are some things that creators, business owners need to look at that you discuss with them briefly before we move on to Caleb? I'm just curious.
Love it. That's a good question. The first thing I want to say that's kind of funny is that most clients that first ask me questions about a DAO, first thing that they say is, it's not on my back, it's not on my partner's back, so I guess we're all good. So the conversation becomes a lot broader than it should be at first, and let's just leave it at broad, okay? And then I have to kind of reassure them that no, that it is on your back. You are a promoter of an autonomous software, and therefore you're responsible for the AI. You're responsible for the operations of it, the versioning of it, the representation of the versioning, et cetera, et cetera. And then they start thinking, okay, now what can I do, and why do I need to file the DAO? So.
Love it. Thank you so much, Nima. Appreciate your input there. Mitch, did you want to jump in?
Well, so along those lines, Nima, do you recommend for most of your clients to do business as first set up a corporation or a limited liability company and then use that to create the DAO to separate, business liabilities from personal assets using the corporate veil theories, or do you go a different direction?
Yes, Mitch. So the quick answer is yes. The longer answer is yes, because typically most businesses are not Web3 businesses from inception, right? So most businesses are Web2 businesses that are successful Web2 businesses that are trying to become Web3 businesses. And that's, in any industry that you would try to contemplate it, that's been the case, from my experience at least. And I've been reviewing thousands of potential ICOs and then DAOs and related companies. So I think that the future is that DAOs obviously will take new forms that we have not seen yet, because the technologies that create autonomy within business operations will take new forms that we have not seen. So the language will change every year or every few months at that, or at every decision or major decision that changes an industry or specific use case of an AI. There will be an AI Bill of Rights coming out in the next few months, but that's not in any way self-sufficient or all-inclusive or something that you can just rely on for the remainder of your company's existence. So always hire a competent attorney and make sure that they have the right co-counsel.
Absolutely. So important, folks, that you take heed from some of the conversation today and do your due diligence. And if you have questions, follow up with people, start networking and learning from these spaces. And with that, we'd just like to welcome Caleb to the stage. Caleb is definitely, I describe, the one to watch when it comes to Web3 entrepreneurs. He brings a lot of creativity. He also helped me with my first ever sort of NFT drop with the artworks, the strategy, and I just have immense sort of excitement about his future when it comes to the world of Web3 and what he's getting up to. So Caleb, welcome. I know you helped us make today's session happen. Feel free to fire away with your question for Nima.
Yeah, hey, what's up? I am the guy that you just mentioned. I have an agency called Web3 Insanity where we do marketing, and I also have a direct partnership with a buddy of mine who does software development. So if anyone's interested, I have that. And yeah, so I'm curious, and I'll preface, I have my own opinion on this, and you just mentioned this. This is like a perfect segue. For companies that are already Web 2, would it be better to, actually, I don't like the way I phrased that question. If a company is trying to get into Web 3, and it doesn't matter what the idea is, it's just a vague, should they first establish themselves as a traditional business with the traditional business model completely outside of Web3, something that is tried and true? and then add the layer of Web3, or should people just try and jump right in, right? And I'm not just talking about NFT projects. I'm talking about maybe what Google is doing, what Facebook's doing, right? They've got stuff established and then they're adding that extra layer of Web3. Is that the right way to see it, or how would you
That's a
suggest
really good
people to go about
question.
it?
You know what, Caleb? That's a really good question. It's This is the short answer. Historically speaking, the big tech companies, the Amazons, the Googles, the Facebooks of the world, they wielded all the power because they owned what was our data, which is a valuable property right. It's the most valuable property right that we all have. Okay? So there should be a basic human right to our own data in the near future. That's what we are advocating for on the legislative level. And once we have that type of right, okay, it's a human basic right, then theoretically most countries in the world should provide a minimum compensation through the big tech companies to users for their data, and or Web3 companies should emerge in their place to be a better fitted solution than the big tech companies to serve the needs of very many stakeholders in the transaction or in the industry or process. So the short answer is the tech companies, over the past few decades, they've been using all of our data, they've been trading all of our data, they've been trading it for free. And that's not going to be the case anymore. So that's why we all need to collectively learn more about Web3, learn more about these new technologies that are emerging, and support them, get behind them. It's not going to cost you anything to support a company or to learn more about it and to actually hear out their solution. What are they actually doing that's different from the big tech companies, and what is their goal for the future with it, right? So that's my best short answer as to how much you should get involved in Web3 and why.
But by the way, that's also I love that answer, and I just wanted to that's kind of pointed at everybody as well, because I would love to hear Mitch's thoughts, Francesca's thoughts, even Robert. But I love that answer. Thank you.
Hey, should we jump to? Did Mitch or Francesca want to chime in, or if so, that's great. If not, we can welcome Matthew. But yeah, Francesca, do you want to chime in?
I just want to say that like these conversations still just blow my mind. I mean, when you actually think about what's happening so fast and how it's really revolutionizing the way that we all are going to live and not just operate business, but really live. And it's also intimidating when you think about it from a Meta or Facebook, Google perspective. It's going to be interesting to see and continue to see how those companies are really going to embrace this, because it really is bigger, I think, than all of us. So it's just funny. I always think how these conversations. I love when you get like a room of really smart people together. And thank you, Nima, for educating us. Yes, we're lawyers, but a lot of this is also there's a lot of philosophy and theory behind Web3. So just wanted to share my random brain explosion that Nima inspired.
And I just love these conversations, and I love not being the smartest in the room and being around these incredible minds, yourself, Francesca, and everybody else, because we're all learning. And even in the audience, Moho, I love your avatar. To ask you the question, would you have had it like that 10 years ago, being in the legal world? And, co-founder of MetaCourt, the first legal metaverse built on Solana, folks. Like, this is incredible what's going on right now and what it means for not just the legal industry, but many other industries. And with that, we'd love to welcome Matthew to the stage. I know you've been getting busy on some Web 2.3, Web 3, depends what we're calling Entre these days, platforms with Francesca. Introduce yourself and fire away with your question.
Yeah, sure. Hey, everyone. Matthew Curvis. I'm the subscription attorney. I actually want to answer Caleb's question, if that's all right with you, Robert.
Go for it. Jump in.
Yeah, sure. So just a part that Nima didn't address, I'd be happy to answer, Caleb, and that is that if you don't, at least correct me if I'm wrong, but I think part of your question was, do you have to play by existing rules when making a metaverse company or a Web3 business, right? And if you don't, the default rules are going to apply to you, right? So like, where are you building it? What's your jurisdiction? A lot of the thing people talk about in Web3 is, oh, hey, look, it's in the metaverse. The existing rules don't apply, except they do, and they're going to try to apply them, whatever authority, for the jurisdiction that you're in, right? So like when the first motor vehicle was built, and people started driving cars, there were no regulations around that, right? And all the lawyers in the room know, well, what did we do? Well, we applied horse law, right? Because horse and buggies were a thing. So there were regulations around that. So current regulations will apply, uh, regardless of whether you're building Web3, or for the metaverse or whatever, right? So generally speaking, and obviously no legal advice here, but talk to a lawyer. But yeah, you're probably going to want to play by existing rules and hire an attorney to make sure everything, is compliant with existing regulations while building for Web3. So I don't have any questions. I just had to make sure everyone in the room knew at least my opinion on that.
No, thanks for sharing that, and I just want to encourage people to check out Matthew's profile as well, because he's getting very busy in these spaces and providing some top quality content and doing some interesting collaborations. So again, if you're new to these spaces, you're getting to meet some of the people that are getting really active and here to educate, help. And as I say, nothing given today is legal advice. It's all a conversation amongst friends, and it's just super exciting times ahead. And with that, I just want to welcome to the stage a good buddy of mine, Jason Hill, because we're going to be doing an event tomorrow, which I'm super excited about. But Jason, would love for you to do a mini intro, and if you have a question for the panel or any thoughts when it comes to sort of Web3 technology, you have the mic for 60 seconds, buddy.
Whoop. Hey, thank you, Robert, for having me. I look forward to the interview tomorrow at 2 p.m., of course, where I'll be joining a lot of other people in the OWL community talking about everything, about advice giving and advice sharing. And of course, I need to learn a lot about Web3, right? Being an app developer on my end, and putting a new product to the market. There's so much new technology that's coming around the corner, especially when it comes to law, with Apple announcing, that you have to have a delete function with all new updates moving forward. It's creating a major ripple effect with a lot of apps, with all the data, right? So yeah, I'm here to learn, like many others, about what's to come, and obviously got to align yourself with amazing experts to provide good knowledge, so that way you don't have to figure it out all on your own. But yeah, I'm happy to join this room. I know it's coming to an end, and I'll be on here tomorrow, of course, to share knowledge about OWL.
Yeah, no, and I'm excited for that one, buddy. And I guess I'll just flip it to Nima for any sort of comments to what Jason said there. Obviously, he's building an app, he's getting busy in these space. Maybe just high level, because I know we're coming to the top of the hour. Any things that maybe people could be thinking about, a sort of your perspective?
Yes, certainly. So just want to respond to Matthew's comment right there. It's a really good comment because, the past many decades of case law and employment matters, which are the most important matters to consider in international disputes or resolutions in the context of any project, let alone a Web 2, Web 3, or whatever project. It's going to rest on employment law. And so you should talk to an employment lawyer that's been, privy to that, and not necessarily a technology lawyer. So not every issue is a technology issue, and that's the takeaway that Matthew was trying to deliver. Jason, I'm excited for your app. I think that I definitely don't know enough about your app yet to give you a recommendation. So I think I want to learn more about it. I'll definitely tune in tomorrow first thing and learn more about it. And if you have any questions for me in the meantime, you can send me an email. How's that?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm going to dive very deep into the subject tomorrow. I do have to run. I'm running a clubhouse room at 3:00 with our OWL community. We have a big event this whole week where we're doing events daily on Zoom, on LinkedIn, on all different platforms. So you'll probably see a lot of me. Probably see a lot of about OWL from other people doing interviews. So I got to run. Thank you, Robert, for having me real quick. I know I'm just popping my head in and out real quick. Okay, see you later, everyone.
Thanks, Jason, and thank you, everybody. That brings us to the top of the hour. I just wanted to ask whether or not Mitch or Francesca, as my sort of resident panel, who very kindly give up their time on Mondays to be here, had any sort of final concluding comments or anything else interesting going on this week where they can find you, things you've got going on. Francesca, is there anything you wanted to shout out there? Mitch?
So I am speaking at a big event this week, Empire State of Law in New York City. It's hosted by the ladies of the Level Up law firm. It's a female-owned and led law firm, and I'm going to be speaking on the Web3 panel. So I'm super excited to be there. If any of you want to come meet me in person and attend the event, send me a note and I'll shoot you a link for the invite. But looking forward to seeing you all back here on Monday. Thanks, guys.
And I'll be sharing that link out, Francesca, with my community. I can't wait to hear and listen to what you and everyone else has to say. I would suggest, just based upon what we've talked about, is differentiate everyone from what you should be doing with FOMO, fear of missing out. I think it's okay to pump the brakes right now. I think it's okay to take your time and do your due diligence, especially when doing business in the Web3 environments. I shared a post, an interview I did with Jason Fried, who's the co-founder of Basecamp, a very well-known author. Most of you know Jason, and he has a term called JOMO, joy of missing out. And what Jason has always preached is it's okay not to be involved with everything. It's okay not to know about everything. Instead, take a step back and focus a little bit about what you're working on, what you're interested in right now. And I think between practicing JOMO, being aware of FOMO, and understanding that you can use your right foot not only to accelerate, but move it over to the left and hit the brake every now and then, I think that's a really prudent way of moving forward in the Web3 spaces.
I love that, Mitch. Yeah, it's such a great point. So check out Mitch and also Francesca. And yeah, Francesca, send us the link. We'll share it with my community for you too. Definitely not one to miss, folks. And also make sure you check out Caleb's profile, because as I say, he's doing Web3 Made Easy, which you say there. And I just want to pass the mic to Nima. Thank you for being a great guest today, giving up your time. Any sort of concluding comments from your side, or where people can find you and what you're getting up to when it comes to Web3?
Sure. So you can find me on Instagram at Nima the Lawyer, Lawonomics, or Lawyer in Space. Follow all three. I'll be posting my more technical content about space and Lawyer in Space, and Lawonomics is just everything else. So feel free to reach out. I'm happy to connect with anyone here. It's been a pleasure, Robert, Mitch, Francesca, Caleb. Thank you for connecting everyone today. Marco, thanks for the question, and Matthew, thanks for contributing.
Yeah, no, thank you, folks. It's been another great conversation. I really do appreciate all the speakers' time, but we do not take for granted you in the audience, folks. You have also given up your special time and your working busy days. So I want to say thank you to each and every individual in the audience for being here. If you'd like to carry on the conversation, you're welcome to join our Legally Speaking Club Discord. Many of you in the audience are there already, but if you want to join our Discord, just send me the word Discord and I will happily share the link with you. We'll also be sharing this recording with our socials, so make sure you're following Caleb so you can get the release of that soon. But thank you all so much. I hope you all have wonderful weeks, and if you do want to join us tomorrow, where I will be hosting the founder of the Owl app, which I think is an exciting app, folks. I think it's going places. Then join us tomorrow, 7 p.m. UK, 2 p.m. Eastern, and I'll also be hosting the next LinkedIn official town hall on the 28th of August. So be sure to see you then, folks. Take care. Have a great week. Bye-bye.